Welcome. This is the Punk CX podcast. My name is Adrian Swinscoe, and I'm an advisor, best-selling author, Forbes contributor, and general explorer of the service and experience space. The thing I'm really interested in is how do we create organizations that produce better outcomes for both their customers and their people. This podcast has been running since January 2011, and so we have a big archive to explore. Check out the archive at adrianswinscoe.com. That's enough from me. Let's get into the interview. So welcome to the next edition of the Punk CX podcast. With me today, I have Daphne Robertson, who is the VP of Customer Experience and Operations at #Paid. Hi, Daphne. How are you doing?
Hi, Adrian. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. Now, Daphne, for the benefit of our listeners and the people who read the highlights, can you tell us a little bit about you and the work that you do?
Absolutely. So, #Paid, we're a marketplace that connects creators and brands to craft high-quality content that powers authentic marketing and memorable storytelling. But what does that really mean? So customer experience and operations, those portfolios break down into a number of functions, but are primarily focused on delivery. So that's delivery on the strategy, on the brand, on the execution promises that we make in the market, and in exceeding expectations to create long-lasting strategic partnerships with brands that then allow us to enable our creator community to make a living doing what they love, which is to create. So then there's delivery of our vision and strategy and how we make our dreams as a company come true, one step, one process, one playbook at a time. Okay. But breaking delivery down further, there's the system, process, and measurability of everything we do. So I'm kind of happy to dive into any piece specifically, but high level, that's the work I do and what I focus on. And then beyond work, I find myself planning and dreaming up a seemingly never-ending list of renovation phases for our home. And I just love spending time with my husband and dog, and we will be welcoming a new addition to our family in a couple of weeks.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, we want to talk about influencer marketing. And because I know that recent Adobe research suggests that between about 15 to 20% of online lead generation and revenue can be attributed to what they call affiliate marketing. A large part of which is related to the use of influencer marketing. Now, I haven't talked about influencer marketing that much on the podcast, but it's a part of the whole customer sort of experience spectrum, as it were. And I wanted to have a chat to an expert, you, about how to find out more about it. So forgive me for some of the simple questions. Can you help me understand what is influencer marketing?
So influencer marketing is like when your favorite YouTuber or TikToker talks about a product that they love, like a new video game or their favorite pair of sneakers. Brands will work with these creators because they know people trust their recommendations, just like you would trust a friend's advice. So it's a way for brands to share their products or services by tapping into the trust that creators have built within their communities, but in an engaging and relatable way. And actually what's really interesting about it is looking at some numbers, and the influencer marketing industry is set to grow to approximately $24 billion by the end of 2024.
Wow.
I know.
Wow. That's huge. What are the benefits? In terms of what are the benefits in terms of like the kind of customer engagement and loyalty and all that stuff? And so what sort of impacts are we talking about here? Because it's like, if you go back to the size of the market, that's 24 billion. But then we're talking about kind of Adobe research that says about 15 to 20% of online lead generation can be attributed to what, things around sort of influencer marketing. What are we looking at on a granular sort of like campaign sort of level in terms of the impact on customers, as it were, and then also kind of businesses?
Yeah, there's a lot actually, but at its core, I would want to emphasize trust and connection. So creators already have fans who trust their opinions. So when they recommend something, there's this increased intent to consider or even purchase what they recommend.
Right.
But there's also, the cool factor. It can make a product or service feel very trendy because someone well liked in a vertical really likes it as well and uses it and has talked about, here are some of the use cases. Here is how it works in my personal life. There's this relatability aspect that all of a sudden it's not, Nike talking about their new product line saying, hey, our performance gear is really good. It's actually someone who's very well respected in, say, tennis is actually really popular right now. So maybe it's a tennis player talking about, this is how I use the gear. This is how it's been effective for me. And this is how it's made a difference in my game. Right. And so
Right.
it just a lot more real. There's also extended reach. So
Right.
creators help brands get seen by different audiences who may not actually know about that brand otherwise.
Okay.
So that's really cool because it really extends that reach for the brand. And there's better stories. So a creator's take on a product or service often, like I said, includes their own perspective, their own creative twist, which makes it more memorable and authentic than some of the more traditional ads that we might see that are created kind of in a room with people who may or may not actually use that product or service.
And is it only like a B2C sort of like thing, or is it are you seeing a growing use of this type of marketing, this type of engagement across the business landscape?
So now influencer marketing taps into influencing someone to consider and purchase a product or service. And that extends to both B2C and B2B. So buying is not only part of your personal life, but it's also part of business growth. So that's the beauty of it, is really it focuses on that influence narrative versus which target segment it would be.
And I also the interesting thing, because you mentioned YouTube and you mentioned kind of TikTok, and I know that kind of Instagram's a big platform as well, but it's not just a digital thing as well. It's kind of gone beyond that, and it's starting to sort of, my understanding, it's starting to, it's the right word, invade or permeate kind of the whole kind of marketing kind of landscape. Is that right?
Yeah, you got it. Exactly. So it's not only a digital thing, or at least that's not the way that I see it. I believe that it's influencer marketing at its core is creators creating content, right? That can influence others' opinions about a brand. And content is required for all marketing, from online to offline. So creator content can power the whole marketing funnel and across all channels. That's really the beauty of creator marketing, because it's so limitless in its power and reach and ability to connect. So for example, when you're waiting at a bus stop and you see an ad kind of at the bus stop, that could be creator content, right? When you are walking through the New York Times Square and you see a billboard ad, that could be powered by creator content as well. Ads that you see in magazines, that could be creator content. So it's not just limited into this digital format, but could really extend throughout the whole marketing funnel.
Perfect. And it's not just a celebrity thing either, is it? I mean, well, celebrity could be mass market celebrity, but it could also be kind of like very, very domain sort of like specific. I mean, because it's about connection, depending and regardless of scale, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So actually zooming out, #Paid was a pioneer in defining the differences between an influencer and a creator over 5 years ago. And even today, the terms continue to evolve. So I generally define influencer as folks who are primarily focused on building and leveraging their influence, while a creator is more focused on producing original, high quality content with a primary focus on storytelling and artistry.
Right.
However, I don't believe that people are exclusively one or the other. They can sometimes be a little bit of both. So there are also terms like brand ambassadors or thought leaders or key opinion leaders, content partners. The list kind of goes on, but generally influencer marketing features creators and influencers of all demographics, niches, following sizes, and you may hear them kind of bucketed into groups by their audience size, such as nano, micro, mid, macro, and celebrity talent, which is what you were referring to.
Yeah. I mean, because I do. So you talk about renovations. We've had our bathroom done recently. And there's a couple of things that need to get finished off. And one of which was, you get these transparency sort of films, the things that you can put on windows to kind of like act as it's like frosting on glass.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so I got one of these films because we had to put a thing on a piece of glass, and I was going to do it myself. And I have done it myself. And I was kind of like searching around how best to do this. And I found this lady who was brilliant, made crumbs. She made it look so easy. And I was like, surely not. Anyway, I followed the steps, and it was good. I mean, the outcome was pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's okay. But her scope was very much in that sort of DIY renovation kind of home tips sort of like space.
Yeah.
And if you look at the kind of number of views that she had, this was on YouTube, you look at the number of views that she had on the channel. I mean, it wasn't in the kind of like 6, 7, 8 digits and beyond type of kind of thing. This was in the few thousands, as it were.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what I mean. It's like, it's not necessarily about, it's not about the quantity in terms of how far you can reach. It's about almost the quality of the reach, and if you're speaking to the right audience.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just think that's really interesting, because there's a lot of people that just want to do these things and like to share kind of knowledge. And actually, that's, I guess, when people kind of come at it, because I guess on my next kind of question, because I think there's a trap that many people fall into, is they go, we want to do this, but we want something that's going to go viral. And you're like, oh, head drops. And it's like, and I want to ask you about virality. And is it a thing that's happenstance, or is it something that can be engineered?
Okay. Actually, I had a thought when you're sharing the story about, doing the bathroom reno and the person that kind of helped you figure out a way to do it effectively. So there is actually a lot of studies coming out, or just even trend reporting, in which many brands are leaning more into like the nano, micro, kind of smaller audience size, but creators who, just like that woman, really just care about their craft. They're not really interested in becoming a celebrity. They're just, they're really passionate about something specific, and they want to share more about it, right? And she may even do a sponsored episode where it's, here are the different kinds of films you can buy, right? And I tried all of them, and this was what happened, right? And so it's very informational for you, and it's valuable for her community. And so that's also why there's been an uptick in brands wanting to partner with smaller creators, but creators that have just a much more engaged audience, right? It's a bit different when it's a celebrity and they just have millions of followers. Their engagement levels are going to be much lower because just of the quantity of the following. But I definitely resonate as well with that story. I'm always looking for videos on, well, how do I do that?
Well, I think that the thing that struck me is like, because we went with rather than the static film, we went with the self-adhesive film. And I was a bit like, oh, but you have to spray on water before you can stick it on. I'm like going, but it's sticky. How is that supposed to work? And I was a bit like, trying to figure it out, and she was like, no, you put it on it and get all the kind of the water out, because it allows you to fit in kind of like better. I was a bit like, you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
It's cool. But back to the virality thing.
Yes.
I mean, is it just a thing that kind of happens by chance, or is there sort of key bits to the equation, as it were, to give you the best chance of success?
So my take on virality is, it's a really interesting aspect of influencer marketing. It's a powerful outcome, but I haven't really seen there be a real formula to achieve it. Maybe a portion of it that kind of comes up frequently when you look at viral posts is definitely the emotional aspect, how it connects to people unexpectedly. So while I wouldn't go so far to say it's all luck, a large component is unpredictable, but from what I've seen trend-wise, many content that kind of goes viral either has this huge emotional connection piece, or it's really, really funny and memorable, or it could be a combination of both. And I really like this virality aspect of it, because it really feels like this unstoppable chain of events. It's like a domino effect. You just have that first domino go, and then there's a widespread of engagement, shares, likes, comments, and influencer marketing can really impact all those metrics. But really, the goal of a campaign shouldn't be to go viral. And I think anyone who tells you otherwise is likely selling you empty promises. So I think generally with influencer marketing, because it's creators telling authentic and personal stories, their ability to then create emotionally resonant and engaging content is exponentially amplified as an extension of being the source material themselves, right? So then there's also the fact that creators are at the center of their communities. And so when they post, their followers engage and share, which introduces the content to new audiences, is because their audiences. And so that's kind of where the domino effect really comes into place.
Perfect. I mean, so maybe to bring this to life, I mean, do you have any examples of brands that, because the really interesting thing I find about this is because I think if I reflect on myself, and I'm sure to a large extent it's probably the same, because I think it's a broad thing across customers generally, is that people can feel slightly swamped by it, and then you don't know who to trust, and if they're if what they say is kind of true or not, and all this type of stuff. But the way that you talked about how brands are using influencer marketing to build those better connections, to build more trusted connections, to build kind of emotional connections with their customers through their work with influencers. I mean, could you share with me a couple of examples of brands that have engaged with influencer marketing, what their kind of challenges might have been, and what they're doing, and how they're benefiting the sort of outcomes that they're driving, just to bring it all to life, the art of the possible, as it were?
Yeah, definitely. So one that comes to mind is Sephora.
Okay.
Very well known, right? But a lot of the content that they create is focused on really telling the story of their creators, and especially the element of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So primarily what they're doing is leveraging creator storytelling just of themselves. But then in that storytelling, the primary focus of the campaigns that we've worked on with them are really actually more about the creators and not about the brand or products. Those are a secondary focus. So for example, in their Pride campaign, Sephora was not even mentioned in the content, only in the caption. So the content was really just solely focused on the creators day to day, how they're celebrating, what they're doing, what's going on in their lives. So I thought that was a really interesting angle, not even mentioning Sephora, but having Sephora be this kind of brand in the background that is powering that creator's life.
Right.
And another example would be the Gold Peak, which it is a tea brand, but the Golden Hour Peak Filter campaign. So I believe this was campaign worked on by Jared Cozell. I might have butchered his last name, but hopefully he doesn't mind. But it really worked on highlighting the emotional connection between moments shared over tea and the natural beauty of the golden hour, hence the name of the tea, the Gold Peak.
Okay.
So the campaign actually leveraged creators to share content, but there was a custom-made filter that mimicked the warm, kind of nostalgic hues of golden hour lighting. And it actually, that filter, that add-on physical piece, uses the tea itself in the filter to create that golden hour hue. So the filter was designed to enhance the emotional resonance of memories, really aligning with Gold Peak's brand ethos of savoring life's simple pleasures. And it resulted in 90 million plus impressions, really an unheard of nearly 100% positive social sentiment. And the campaign really effectively tied the product to these personal picturesque experiences. And I thought that was a really cool way of taking creative marketing and going beyond just the digital channel, right? And having creators take this physical piece of filter, add an actual gold tea product to create that hue and share content in that way. That was very cool.
Nice. And so given that you are VP of customer experience and operations at hashtag kind of paid, and that you run this kind of platform that connects creators and influencers to kind of brands.
Mm.
I mean, if there are people that are out there, brands that are out there looking to do more with influencer marketing, whether it's across the B2C space or the B2B space, I mean, what do you have any tips for them about how to get it right and what to do and what not to do, kind of like what to look out for, as it were?
Oh man, there are so many learnings to share. But I don't want to keep the listeners here for the next couple of hours, so I will keep it concise. So what to do in influencer marketing, I would say definitely trust your creators. So just as much as you are leaning onto the creators' trust that they built with their audience, as a brand, you need to also trust the creators in properly representing you. So I would definitely encourage brands to let creators have autonomy to craft authentic content that resonates with their audience, because they know their audience the best. They know what works best in getting that engagement and talking and weaving through their kind of own twist on it. I've definitely seen, and we'll kind of go into maybe what not to do in influencer marketing as well, and kind of go back and forth. But there is a tendency from some brands to micromanage creators. So this would be something that would be what not to do. If you dictate every detail of content creation, which your legal partners will be very happy about, it does undermine the authenticity and performance of the content. So I've seen time and time again where creators are asked to follow a script. Some will actually review what the requirements are and they won't even opt in because they have experienced this type of level of management before and it didn't perform well for them. But it can become very nuanced with script following, all these details outlined. It then becomes just like the creator is creating content for the brand, but they're posting it on their pages. So it doesn't really line up. And that's kind of where a lot of the content then doesn't resonate. And there certainly wouldn't be this virality aspect either. But what to do, another one is leveraging cultural moments. So aligning campaigns with events or trends. So an example could be Olympics. It could be international film festivals. It could be large scale events or holidays, really using creators to make your brand's presence feel natural and relevant in these moments. Sure. So we actually have this offering called Creator Calendar, and that provides brands with advanced access to preview a creator's upcoming life moments. So that could be a pregnancy, it could be buying a first home, it could be attending major events, applying to college, all the things that are authentically happening already. And brands can then secure more meaningful partnerships to kind of align their marketing efforts with relevant creator life moments and really kind of build that true partnership of working together. And so I think that's a really cool kind of opportunity for brands to engage creators. Yeah.
It feels to me like it's that a key part of this, like you say, it's like trust on many levels. Is if you're outsourcing some of this work, as it were. Say you have a product or service, and there's a particular campaign or thing that you want to do that surrounds a certain event, then whether you have other kind of channels you might be using, whether they're digital or otherwise, you have a lot of control into the different aspects of that, where it goes, how it goes, what is said, how it's said, all these different sort of things.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with somebody else's voice, as it were, then you almost have to trust that they'll take your message or your thing and then frame it in a way that makes sense for them. So you almost have to cede control and build up your kind of like trust that this is gonna work. And I think that's a possibly a bit of a challenge, kind of like for some people, because of that sort of, you have to dial down the control and dial up the trust in a bit. And that might be a different sort of mindset that people go into it if they're just experimenting with it for the first time. But like in many things, when you try something for the first time, it might not work, but it might be hugely successful as well. Yeah. But it's going to be probably less successful if you try and micromanage it.
Exactly. And I think the cool thing about influencer marketing is the ability to test at a smaller scale.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not this huge investment that you have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to just see if it will work for you. A nano or smaller creator could be, a few thousand or a few hundred even.
Mm-hmm.
And you can start to see, okay, how might I engage my audience in a different way using other voices to represent what our brand is really about. So I think you really nailed it when you talk about how there is this aspect of relinquishing some control in how your brand is represented, but what to keep in mind is these creators really care about their reputation as well.
Yeah.
They really care about managing how their reputation is with their communities and making sure that they're still driving value and providing real, authentic insights and stories to their audience. And so there is a level of control that they will put on themselves of ensuring that they're not kind of going off a quote unquote off script, as you will. So I think there are some mechanisms in place that kind of already help to make sure that there's a certain level of care already with creators, but definitely when brands find really authentic creators to partner with, something really special and magical comes up with the content that they create together. And I've seen some that have given me chills, and I just feel like, wow, this is really, really incredible content that inspires me as well. And then I go out and get and then I go buy.
And so in the midst of all of this creation, the content creation and the storytelling, in what is now 2024, and over the last couple of years, we've seen this explosion of new artificial intelligence tools, particularly around generative AI and how it's seeping into not just text-based stuff, but into audio and into video creation and image creation and all these different sort of things. I mean, how is the advent of all these generative AI tools going to affect this space, do you think? Because it just feels to me it's a huge thing and different people playing it in the different ways. And I don't know, I just would like to get your take on how you think it's going to impact the influencer marketing sort of space.
Yeah. So I was looking into kind of what do the numbers say? I was interested in understanding, and then I'll kind of go into the top three areas in which I think generative AI will have the biggest impact.
Mm-hmm.
But in looking at one of the reports, this was by Influencer Marketing Hub, they're saying that the rise of generative AI tools will, I believe in the survey, it was 63% plan to use AI in executing their influencer campaigns. 55% of these brands will use AI for influencer identification. So this is really finding the creators to work with your brand. And then 60% of the respondents, this was over, I think, 3,000 people, also have budgeted influencer marketing to increase over 2024. So there's a lot of elements going on there. And really, when I think about generative AI tools and where their biggest impact will be, I think one is increasing efficiency and productivity. So this looks more like automating some tasks, streamlining your workflows, really helping you make data-driven decision-making, because really the benefit of AI is the ability to ingest large quantities of data. So a creator could theoretically leverage AI to analyze all of the comments they've received on their content in the last 30 days. And then they draw insights on what they should be doing more of or less of, how they should grow. AI can also assess a creator's potential performance by analyzing past campaigns, what their audience sentiment is, help brands really make data-driven decisions. So that's going to be a really big piece of it. A second one is enhancing creativity and personalization. So this is either empowering creators to create higher quality, more engaging content, really tailored to very specific, targeted, segmented of their audiences. But it could also be brands being able to have more personalized content for their audience segments, kind of going both ways, being more tailored in their approach, but really leveraging AI to make those tailoring possible over a short period of time. And then the last piece is improving campaign performance and then measurement. So what AI can do is automate a lot of aspects of campaign management, whether it's scheduling posts or tracking performance metrics or even generating reports and insights. So this could free up a lot more time for creators and brands to focus on the more strategic tasks, coming up with the narrative, coming up with how the storytelling would be. And AI can kind of monitor in the background and really amplify that. So I think those are the main parts of what we'll see a lot of impact in.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I mean, because I think I was discussing it on a previous podcast because I went to a HubSpot event recently, and they had a very, I mean, it's interesting, really great messaging because about what the AI tools will do and what the human beings will do. And then particularly in one space, I think it was marketing, they were saying AI will create and humans will curate. And what they meant by that, I think, is that the tools will then help do a lot of the, what was it, manual sort of work. But then the humans will add the sort of the nuance and the customization and the sort of the particular flavor or distinctiveness, as it were.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that made me think about when I heard that was that there's a challenge in there, implicit in there, or there's an assumption implicit in there, which says that people are good at writing, good at storytelling, but good writing, good storytelling is hard. And great storytelling and great writing is even harder still. And I think that's the thing, is that, and the thing about the influencer marketing is that you end up with people who are generally, if they're successful, they're generally natural storytellers, or they're gifted storytellers, that they've worked at their craft, as it were. And I think that's the thing. It's about, the storytelling and the connection, and that's the important thing, and how it kind of fits into people's kind of like lives. And so if the AI tools kind of help with the heavy lifting, then people can then concentrate on the craft or the art of the story they're trying to tell, I think.
Exactly. And I think that really resonates with me when I think about AI and how it will impact creators. Is I don't see it being this tool or technology right now that would replace creators per se. It's really about amplifying their voice, taking the mundane or repetitive tasks, and allowing creators to just focus on the emotional elements that actually would not be able to be replaced, because an AI creator could never say, this is how I felt using this product. They couldn't say, this is how it makes me feel, or this is what I experienced, because that isn't true. That just isn't true, right? No. And so really that's the unique element of the overlay of creators on top of it, is now I can actually have more time to just focus on my storytelling, my emotional connection. And I'm really excited for how that will then open up even more creative concepts and more, really, it's ultimately connection in the end.
And so, we're touching on technology. I mean, let's kind of zoom out a little bit and think about, because we're sort of awash with new technologies, kind of like right now. They're coming thick and fast. But what's on your radar right now? What are the big things, big trends and technologies that you're watching that you think are going to drive and shape the future of this space, or just customer experience in general? And what should we be doing to sort of prepare for those?
So I do not have a crystal ball, so don't hold me to it.
Okay.
But my predictions, I guess, are kind of more centered around the future of customer experience being a continued evolution in more personalized, more timely, and more helpful interactions for customers. So that could really break down into this theme of hyper personalization. So whether it's AI powered personalization, where AI can kind of analyze vast amounts of customer data and then predict your preference. They can predict when you might have questions, offering customized recommendations based on your past purchases over the past decade, or kind of real-time advice. That would be the hyper-personalization piece, and kind of customer experience moving beyond the basic segmentation that we have right now, but even potentially creating unique journeys for each customer, right? Adapting to their needs and preferences at every touch point. Right now, many customers are segmented into larger buckets, but the ability of AI to kind of amplify that is maybe even unique journeys, if that makes sense for the brand to continue to grow. And another, I mean, there's a lot of elements with AI, but the automation piece is really what I would want to focus on in the next few years, which is whether that's 24/7 chatbots or virtual assistants, the predictive piece I kind of touched on as well, but also automating some of the repetitive things where maybe right now we're using Zoom and maybe I might have a support question to the agent saying, I'm unable to log in or my audio isn't working. And they might get that all the time. That could just be automated. But when it comes a bit deeper into, hey, I'm looking to expand my Zoom licenses and use Zoom better, right? That's maybe when the human element really comes in. Then there's also, I think, in customer experience, a really big white space, which is immersive experiences. So that could be using augmented reality or virtual reality. I think I was talking to someone recently who mentioned it's a really interesting experience to be in the metaverse and see yourself in a mirror.
Right.
Yeah. So all these different things that, we currently aren't really thinking about engaging in that way. I think customer experience can really go beyond just our virtual space as well. And also I've seen ways in which some brands have used, color matching for foundations or the ability to visualize furniture in a space, like kind of really help you with seeing what's in your mind, but in an actual tangible way. And I think that's really cool.
Okay.
And then maybe the last one that I would touch on is this concept of an everywhere customer. So a true omni-channel experience where the customer would have this seamless transition between web, between social, between in-store, and it's all this consistent and integrated experience across all touch points. I think that is going to be really important to see continued investment in the next while, really enabling this unified customer profile or single view of what they're doing across all these channels for the brand to really understand, okay, who is this person that has been consistently buying with us and how do we find more of them? And that, I think that is going to be a huge part of what we'll see in the next few years.
Fascinating. I mean, and not easy to necessarily to realize all of these things. So there's some big challenges ahead.
And one of those things where it's just, there's going to be lots of strategic projects on companies' roadmaps, and we'll see how they get executed and all the new technology that will come out to help them with that execution too.
Yeah, I do think the one, if you like, health warning I would put on the top of that is don't get lost in the technology. Stay focused on the relationship that you want to build and use the best tools that are available to you that is going to help you achieve your objectives in that space.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really, I think, the key is using things that may have this AI aspect to really help with the repetitive automated tasks. But then taking that opened up capacity and really going deeper into the connection, into the ability to have real stories being told, which I think influencer marketing does really well. But in general, just that's how, as a brand, you will stand out, because all these tools will be available to every brand, right? But it's how you then use the tool to not just replace, but to actually amplify and elevate the human experience. I think that is how you will stand out in the next few years.
Perfect. So before we get into we move towards wrap up and get towards some quick fire questions. Anything else on influencer marketing that we need to know or you like to highlight that we've missed out?
One thing, yes, that comes to mind. We recently held a creator marketing summit in New York, and we had at MD Motivator, his name is Zach, join us on stage. He had a really powerful message on how he's using social media to spread love and kindness in the world. And what it really did was showcase the impact that creators can have beyond telling their own stories, but telling the stories of others and highlighting the basic human needs of love and connection. And I thought that was really special. There wasn't a single person in the audience that wasn't shedding a tear, but that is probably why I've been in the creator economy for 8 years and why every year is more exciting than the last. I'm really fascinated by that intersection of creators, our economy, and our culture. And so when we think about influencer marketing, it isn't just limited to the storytelling of the brand or the creator, but can also be in addition to the storytelling of humans in general, which I think it's good to keep in mind.
Excellent. Love it. So, a few quick fire questions before we finish up. So, I always like to boil things down and ask for people's best advice. And so, the way I've been doing that is to ask people to complete this sentence. And the sentence is, Daphne, if you would want to improve your customer experience, Daphne says, do this. Over to you.
So I'm in customer experience, but I always start with people experience because I view that as the root of how our customer experience is designed and received by our customers. If your people are happy, engaged, they will provide great customer experiences because experience, values, and meaning, to me, that starts on the inside and goes outward. So with that said, my best advice would be to improve employee experience. And I know this is very difficult because everyone is at different stages of growth, but it's to get really good at identifying what the problems are. So you can't make impactful improvements without having a deep understanding of the problems. And problems often surface as symptoms of the root cause. So deep discovery on what the true problems are and solving for the root causes will result in long-lasting improvements to customer and employee experience.
Fantastic. Love it. So, second question, and it has to be a punk one because it's a Punk CX podcast, obviously. And so what company or brand do you think takes a more punk approach to customer experience and why?
Okay, what comes top of mind is Patagonia, actually.
Okay.
So their commitment to environment and social responsibility, I think, goes far, far, far beyond just their marketing and what they tell people. They encourage their customers to buy less, they repair more. Everything you get is free repairs, lifetime warranty. And then actually in late 2022, the founder announced that he and his family were transferring ownership of the company to a specially designed trust and nonprofit organization. So that really, to me, was this unprecedented move that I haven't seen a brand do and show their kind of solidarity and commitment to their mission and values. So it really wasn't this capitalist company, clothing company, because their products are quite expensive. But it's not really about that. It's about, okay, how do we take this further and play a role in the broader global stage of transforming where we live and transforming our environment? And I thought that that was really cool to just do something different and be okay with that.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I love Patagonia. I mean, Yvon Chouinard as a founder he's a legend in that whole sort of like space and how he looks after his employees and and if anybody hasn't read it, they should check out his book, Let My People Go Surfing, which goes all the way back to your point about employee experience. And so a pioneer in many senses of the word. So great shout on that. And then my final question before we wrap up is the world is full of weirdness and kind of like doom scrolling and all sorts of things. So Daphne, help me and tell me a good news story. Tell me, like, what is the most interesting, positive, or exciting thing you've seen in the last week?
So this would be more specific to me because I have these Google alerts set up.
Okay.
Wow. It's maybe tough to pick just one, but I've actually seen a surge in coverage and discussions and research in regenerative agriculture.
Okay.
I think that holds immense promise for us in creating a more sustainable and resilient food system. So I view regenerative agriculture as this holistic approach that addresses both environment, social, and actually not just both, but environmental, social, and economic challenges. So I'm really excited to actually see more investment in that and start to see that take off. So that to me is a really positive news story because it shows how we are thinking about the future in a more holistic way versus just trying to solve for the imminent food shortages that we're expecting. And to me, that's at the end of the day, we're all just trying to figure out how do we make this all work, but in a sustainable way for everyone.
Right.
So I really like that.
I like that. What a great story. I mean, maybe it's some people should get onto Google Alerts and put in terms that they want to see more of, and when it kind of pops up, it becomes your good news shower.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a great idea. I've really enjoyed it myself.
That's awesome. Well, Daphne, that's all I have for today. Just want to say thank you for helping me understand a bit more about influencer marketing, how it works, what not to do, and what to do, for sharing your time and your insight and your expertise with me today. That's been super cool.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed chatting with you about it. And I hope that there are some good takeaways for our listeners today.
100%.
Have a good one.
Wow, what a great interview. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. Find out more about me and the work that I do at adrianswinscoe.com. Do leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you have any comments, feedback, or questions about the podcast, then feel free to send me a message to podcast@adrianswinscoe.com. Do tune in again. Thanks very much.